Hi there, welcome to my YouTube channel Tiny Classes. If you are watching my video for the first time, do subscribe my channel, hit the bell icon so that I get notified whenever new video will be uploaded. So in today's video we will cover the second part of the chapter Landscape of the Soul, written by Nathalie Tovero from class 11 CBSE. So let's get started. In the first part of the chapter, we have learned a difference between Chinese art and European art and how one can see inner beauty of the landscape. So when it comes to Chinese art, the painter wants you to see more than whatever is seen in that painting. That means he wants to draw your attention towards the deep meaning of the painting and soul of the landscape, whereas in a European art, you will see the choice of painter, whatever the painter see from his eyes or look at the particular landscape, he wants to draw exact real view of the landscape. So let's move on the second part of the chapter now. This is even more true in the case of horizontal scroll, in which the section of slowly opening one section of the painting, then rolling it up to move on the other, adds a dimension of time which is unknown in any other form of painting. So here the narrator talks about another feature of the Chinese painting, which is the horizontal scroll. That means the picture that can scroll down horizontally. So when you slowly scrolling one section of the painting and then scrolling upward on the other side, it adds a dimension of time which is unknown in any other form of painting. It also requires the active participation of viewer, who decides at what pace he will travel through the painting. So here he is saying that if somebody see the painting actively, then the viewer will decide what he wants to see in the painting, and it depends on the viewer and the way how they are looking at the beauty of the painting, whether outer beauty or travel through inner beauty of the artist. And further he says a participation which is physical as well as mental. So here he is saying that if you are only going through the painter and understanding inner meaning of the painting, then you will be able to understand physical art as well as mental art of the painter in the painting. The Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes, he wants you to enter his mind. So here he emphasized Chinese painting, that when you see the Chinese painting, the painter does not like you to applaud only its external beauty, but also he wants to go through inner beauty of the painting by understanding what is the real meaning of the painting. The landscape is an inner one, a spiritual and conceptual space. So here for the painter, the landscape is an inner one. That means the painting that is drawn not only outer beauty, but it has a deep inner spiritual and basic feature by which concept and object can be compared. This concept is expressed as Shanshui, literally mountain water, which used together represent the word landscape. So here there is a word called Shanshui, that means mountain water, and Shanshui refers to a style of traditional Chinese painting and involves or depicts scenery or natural landscapes. More than two elements of an image, these represents two complementary poles reflecting the Taoist view of the universe. This concept is expressed as Shanshui, literally mountain water, which used together represent the word landscape. So here there is a word called Shanshui, that means mountain water, and Shanshui refers to a style of traditional Chinese painting and involves or depicts scenery or natural landscapes. More than two elements of an image, these represents two complementary poles reflecting the Taoist view of the universe. So here the narrator is saying that it was more than two elements of Chinese painting and it represents two complementary poles, that means reflecting the Taoist view of the universe. The mountains is yang, reaching vertically towards heaven, stable, warm and dry in the sun, while the water is yin, horizontal and resting on the earth, fluid, moist and cool. So here he is saying that mountain is yang, and yang refers to light, strength, activity and the heavens. So in the painting, mountains represents stable things that are warm and dry and looking towards the sun, and whereas yin represents water, and we know that the mountains that is vertical and when it comes to yin is called horizontal water. So in real sense, yin and yang describe the two essential forces inherent in all of nature and resting on the earth, and it is fluid, moist and cool. So you can look at the two different opposite essential forces of yin and yang in the painting. The interaction of yin, the receptive feminine aspect of universal energy, and its counterpart yang, active and masculine, is of course a fundamental notion of Taoism. So here the narrator is telling about two aspects, that is yang and yin. So yin represent the receptive, which means accepting new suggestions and ideas of feminine aspect of universal energy. That means having quality or an appearance traditionally associated with the woman, whereas yang represent active and masculine, and these are the two fundamental notions of Taoism. What is often overlooked is an essential third element, the middle void, where their interaction takes place. So here the writer is telling that these two energies that are feminine and masculine, but there is another essential, that is third element, and people really don't know about the third energy, and it is called the middle void. That means the empty space between yang and yin where their interaction takes place. This can be compared with the yogic practice of pranayama, breathe in, retain, breathe out. The suspension of breath is the void where meditation occurs. So here he is saying about three elements that are yang, yin and middle void can be compared with pranayama, breathe in, retain, breathe out, and the suspension of breath. That means pausing after breath flows in or out, and this suspension of breath is the void where meditation happens. The middle void is essential. Nothing can be happen without it. That means the middle void is very essential in yang and yin. Similarly, how we have to retain this breath is very essential, and hence the importance of the white unpainted space in Chinese landscape. So here the writer is saying that when you see the Chinese painting, there is some unpainted white space. So this is very important, and it is as important as the middle void or the place where we retain our breath in pranayama. So we can understand how these two practices, that is breathe in and out, are important. Similarly, unpainted spaces in the Chinese landscape are an important. This is also where man finds a fundamental role. So here he is talking about the middle void, where man has also played a very important role. In that space between heavens and earth, he becomes a conduit of communication between both poles of the universe. So here the writer is talking about the man, how he becomes the conduit of communication, and saying that in the middle space between earth and heavens, man becomes a channel of conduit. Conduit refers to a link to or more other people or countries. So in the same way, the man becomes a conduit of communication between both poles of the universe. His presence is essential, even if it's only suggested. Far from being lost or oppressed by the lofty peaks, he is, in Francois Chain's wonderful expression, the eye of the landscape. So here the writer is saying that the presence of man is very important for two-way communication between earth and heaven, just like how an eye of landscape is very important. So in this way, the man is also being compared to the eyes of the landscape, because without man, there can be no communication possible between the two poles, that is heaven and earth. So that's why the writer is saying that his presence is essential and calling man equal to the eyes of a landscape. Getting inside outsider art, when French painter Jean Dubuffet moted the concept of art brut in the 1940s, the art of the untrained visionary was of monetary interest. So here the writer is talking about outsider art, that was called as art brut. That means piece of art, and Jean Dubuffet suggested the new concept of art brut in 1940s, and the art of the untrained visionary was of monetary interest. That means the outsider art is the art of those people who have no right to be the artist, as they have received no formal trainings, yet they showed their talent and artistic insights. From its almost veiled beginnings, outsider art has gradually become the fastest growing area of interest in contemporary art internationally. So here he is talking about the outsider art that consider art brut later on, and it was completed by untrained painters, and they have started gaining so much interest in these days in contemporary art, that means art related to the current period. So they took a lot of interest on this kind of art, and gradually it was growing up very drastically, especially internationally these days, because it was completely different, and finally outsider art spread like a wildfire across the globe. This genre is described as the art of those who have no right to be artists, as they have received no formal training yet show talent and artistic insight. So here, this genre, that means a category of artists, is described as the art of those who have no right to be artists, and that means the art brut or is outsider art is done by the untrained artist who don't have any clue how to do painting, or artists who have no formal training but yet they are capable to showcase their inner talent and artistic insights to prove that they are good artists without any formal training, and showed different forms of art to the world. Their work are stimulating contrast to a lot of mainstream offsprings. So here, their work done by the outsider art and art brut people, that completely different to the mainstream art. That means normal artist whom we think doing a lot of paintings or whatever other forms of art, and what people do is completely different to these people. Around the time Dubuffet was propounding his concept in India, an untutored genius was creating paradise. So here the writer is saying about the French painter Dubuffet was propounding his concept in India. That means he was trying to represent and trying to spread his concept in India, and he was an untutored genius. That means uneducated without having any formal training at all, and was trying to create the paradise, that means heaven or the Garden of Eden in India. Years ago, the little patch of jungle that he began clearing to make himself a garden sculpted with stone and recycled material is known to the world today as the Rock Garden at Chandigarh. So here Dubuffet, long years ago, he was clearing the little patch of jungle, that means a small area of a land where a particular plant or crop grows. He cleaned the jungle, gathered a number of stones and recycled material, and started shaping stone and make sculpted with the help of shaping techniques and create beautiful garden, and today it is called as the Rock Garden at Chandigarh. Its 80 years old creator director Naik Chand is now hailed as India's biggest contributor to outsider art. So here the author is telling about 80 years old Indian creator, and his name was Naik Chand, who started creating this amazing and beautiful garden called Rock Garden at Chandigarh, and later on he is known as India's biggest contributor of outsider art. That means he got famous without having such pieces of training and education of art design. The 50th issue, spring 2005 of Raw Vision, a UK based magazine pioneer in outsider art publications, features Naik Chand. So here in 2005 there was a book named Raw Vision Volume 50, a UK based magazine written by John Mazzels on outsider art, and this book illustrates about an untrained artist who have no formal training received. His name was Naik Chand, and further he is saying, and his book Rock Garden Sculpture Woman by the Waterfall on its anniversary issues cover. So here there was an article especially about his sculpture that is called Woman by the Waterfall on its anniversary issues cover. The notion of art brut or raw art was of work that were in their raw state as regards cultural and artistic influences. So here the narrator is talking about these notions of art brut or raw art, that means self-taught or naive art, or anyone engaged in art outsider, where Naik Chand beautifully designed piece of art that is raw kind of art, and they were in their undergone position, but then they were regarded as cultural and artistic influences on people. Anything and everything from a tin to a sink to a broken down car could be material for a work of art, something Nek Chand has taken of dizzying heights. So here the narrator is talking about the way how the artist used to create their art, and by the help of parts of broken car, small particles of tin, or breaking down the rock into small pieces could be material for work of art. And when it comes to Nek Chand, he has done the same thing, gathered waste material of hard substance for a work of art, and he has taken this form of art to great heights by creating the rock garden at Chandigarh. Recognizing his art as an outstanding testimony of the difference a single man can make when he lives his dream. So here Nek Chand was honored for his outstanding work of art, and he proved that a single man can do anything to make his dream come true. And Nek Chand also wanted to be famous artist in the world. So he has proven that what can he do, and whatever he has done, it was beyond imagination. And further he says, the Swiss Commission of UNESCO will be honoring him by way a European exposition of his works. That means he has brought the art inside him and has given a form of art excellently, and that's why UNESCO will be honoring him for creating an exposition. That means creating a large public exhibition of art or trade goods. So in this way UNESCO appreciated his work of art. The 5-month interactive show Realm of Nek Chand, beginning October, will be held in leading museums in Switzerland, Belgium, France and Italy. So here the narrator is talking about there was 5-month interactive show, and the name of the show was Realm of Nek Chand, and UNESCO was leading the show and held at leading museum in Switzerland, Belgium, France and Italy. The biggest reward is walking through the garden and seeing people enjoy my creation, Nek Chand says. So here in the last, the Nek Chand said the biggest reward of walking through the garden. That means when people walk through his garden and they understand the art and enjoy his creation. So that was the biggest reward he got according to the Nek Chand. So I hope you like the video. For more informative videos, do subscribe my channel, hit the bell icon so that I get notified whenever new video will be uploaded. So thank you so much for watching once again. Stay safe, stay healthy.